Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel and the Premier League prediction series. It is finally back. It's been a couple of weeks. The Christmas period, we all know it. Football comes, football goes, but it comes straight back before we've even had a chance to really dissect and digest what it is we just saw. Premier League football is abundant over the Christmas period, and sadly, family, things happen, life happens, and the Premier League prediction series, it took a bit of a sabbatical on the George Benson football channel. We haven't done predictions for a while. We are backed by the Betfair Exchange. We've not had a sponsor on the channel for a very long time. The Betfair Exchange is sponsoring this video, and before we get into my Premier League predictions, I've been using this app over the Christmas period. I've been betting on a few things. I've been backing some bets, laying some bets, which is the fundamental key things that the Betfair Exchange enables you to do, and I've managed to take the balance in my account from £15 up to £51. Now, you guys don't know this about me, but every single match day when I go either at home or away, I like to go into the bookmakers and I like to place an accumulator. However, when it comes to placing a bet, is that you can back something to happen. So, for example, you guys can see on the screen now, Chelsea versus Burnley this weekend. We'll get into my score predictions in a moment, but I'm going to back Chelsea to finally turn around their home form and get a home win at Stamford Bridge against Burnley on Saturday afternoon. So, traditionally, I'd go and place £2 stake on Chelsea to win, and obviously because Chelsea are the home team, the odds aren't going to be that great, but on the Betfair Exchange, the odds are actually often a lot better than what you would traditionally get if you're not betting on the exchange or you're betting with something else. So we look at Chelsea's home form recently, and Burnley could potentially come to Stamford Bridge, and God forbid, we're going to touch wood, as we always do, getting the coaster out, touch wood, Burnley might come to Stamford Bridge and get a win, which we don't want to happen. So, as a result of that, I could potentially lay a bet, and laying a bet basically makes you the bookmaker where you can set the odds. I want to win £5 from Chelsea versus Burnley not being a draw. You think Chelsea are going to win, or Burnley could go to Stamford Bridge and shock them. So you're placing a lay bet, which is the red side. You've got blue for backing, red for laying. You're going to stick £5 as your stake, which means you might well be liable if the game does finish a draw, which obviously is not what you're hoping for because you want to win your bet, of course you do. So if the game does finish a draw, you're liable to pay out, and you must have the money in your account in the first place to be able to place the bet initially. You are liable for the sum that the Betfair Exchange give you if the game is in fact a draw. But if you're confident that it's not going to be, it's a really fun way to start placing individual bets on individual matches. You can bet on there not being a certain amount of goals as well. And if you're not sure about something, the Betfair Exchange kind of gives you a little bit more leeway in order to actually try and make yourself some money by sticking a bet on the football. I really hope the Chelsea game isn't a draw now. We're going to stop talking about that for now, and we're going to go through, starting off with the Friday night game between Sheffield United and West Ham United. Now, this game is an exciting one. West Ham, David Moyes has come in, he's taken over, and all of a sudden, thank goodness is all I'm going to say, Chelsea aren't playing West Ham now. Another team who sacked their manager, Sheffield United, they're kind of in a bit of a moment where we all know how good of a season they've had. Sometimes their football does get a little bit predictable, but with Chris Wilder as their manager this season, they've dug deep, they've won enough matches, they're more than safe this season in the Prem, but I think it could well be a tough one to call, and I do think this game might finish a draw. Gonna say Sheffield United 1, West Ham 1, and I don't really think either side will be too unhappy if that was the scoreline. Crystal Palace versus Arsenal is the early kickoff on the Saturday. Arsenal, so far, under Mikel Arteta, it's been positive. We all know, a couple of weeks ago, Chelsea went to the Emirates and Arsenal were good for 80 minutes. In fact, I'd go as far as to say that everything they'd wanted under Unai Emery was there in 80 minutes. Yes, they only scored once and the game was still there for Chelsea. Chelsea were getting back into it, but Arsenal were trying new things. There was energy in the Arsenal team. Defensively, they looked solid. They beat Manchester United the other day as well, and I think that Arsenal are a team that could have a decent second half to the season. Crystal Palace, all of the talk at the moment is, will Wilfried Zaha stay at the club? This is a tough one, and I think the fact it's an early kickoff, I don't want to give a boring result here. I think Arsenal are going to go there and get the win. I think it's going to be Palace 1, Arsenal 2. So moving into the 3 o'clocks, and we've spoken about Chelsea versus Burnley when we were talking about placing a bet to back Chelsea to win. I do think Chelsea will turn their home form around in this one. We looked pretty good in the game against Nottingham Forest. We saw Reece James linking up with Callum Hudson-Odoi on the right-hand side. Everyone was thinking, Callum can only really play on the left, Pulisic can only really play on the left, Mason Mount isn't playing in the number 10, then he can only really play on the left. Hudson-Odoi had a very good game against Nottingham Forest on the right, and I want to see Frank Lampard go with something similar in this game against the struggling Burnley side. I think Chelsea will win. I think Burnley can always cause some issues, particularly from set pieces. We went to Turf Moor earlier this season, and as you guys can see on the screen, it was one of the best away days of the season. I think Chelsea will win this one. I think we'll score a couple of goals, but I do think Burnley might nick one. I think it will be much more comfortable than this result suggests. Chelsea 2, Burnley 1. The only thing that's important right now for Chelsea is fixing that home form and getting 3 points. Next game we're going to go into is Carlo Ancelotti's Everton versus Brighton. I think we're going to see the best from an Ancelotti Everton in the future. I think next season, once they've had this January and the summer transfer window, I think Everton will be a lot stronger next year than what we've seen from them this season. Silva was sacked, Ancelotti's come in, one of the biggest managers in world football. Brighton, we saw them against Chelsea on New Year's Day. They look decent. Brighton are a good side, and this is not going to be a runaway easy win for Everton. However, I do think they'll get the result. They were poor in the FA Cup against Liverpool. First Premier League game in a week and a half. Everton 2, Brighton 1. There are some close ones this week. Speaking of a game that might not be close, if we base it off of the previous reverse fixture, Leicester went to Southampton, scored 9 away from home. It was a mind-blowing game. I remember watching it and thinking, surely it's going to stop now. Sometimes when teams run riot in the first half, you think they just won't want to keep up the same kind of pace in the second half. Since that game, Southampton have really changed things. They've turned things around. Danny Ings is one of the Premier League's top goal scorers. He's been creeping up the charts this season, keeps scoring goals. They look a lot more solid defensively, and sometimes you've just got to take your hat off, and I will, just for a moment. When they were beaten 9-0 at home to Leicester, it looked as though Southampton's season was only going to head in one direction, straight down the barrel of relegation. They've turned things around. Ralph Hasenhüttl's one of the best managers in the Premier League outside of the top 6, but I do think that this game against Leicester might well be one step too far. We saw Leicester come from behind against Aston Villa in the Carabao Cup semi-final. They'll still fancy their chances to go to Villa Park and get a win in the second leg to make it to the final. It's not going to be 9-0, but Leicester look just so good on the counter-attack. They look so composed. Hamza Chowdhury came on against Villa, changed the game. I think he's got a very bright future in the Premier League. Gonna say Leicester 3, Southampton 1. Just give Danny Ings another goal, why don't you? Ooh, Man United versus Norwich. I watched Man United against City, and it was boys against men. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is so out of his depth in the Manchester United role. It's kind of sad, because he's one of those blokes where he's just a nice bloke. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can't really say a bad word about him. And as a Chelsea fan, I love the job that he's doing at Manchester United. United fans are getting tired of it. Norwich, same theme this season. They play some nice football. Todd Cantwell's a decent player. Buendia, very good player. Pukki, I mean, we're all still talking about him, aren't we? But we're not really anymore. I feel as though this game could be one of those games where United just struggle. They've scored goals. Anthony Martial's been in great form. Marcus Rashford's been in great form. Norwich, I think, are going to go to Old Trafford and get a result here. United fans will be absolutely livid with this one. Man United 2, Norwich 2. Don't think Norwich are going to win, but I think they're going to get a result. Moving into the final 3 o'clock kickoff, we've got Wolverhampton Wanderers, Wolves versus Newcastle. Wolves have stuttered ever so slightly in recent games. They drew with Man United in the FA Cup in what was one of the most boring games of football that I have seen in quite some time. Newcastle, they let me down massively in a bet last weekend. I would have won quite a lot of money if Newcastle would have managed to beat Rochdale, but they flipping didn't, because Wilbraham, who's 40 years old, scored for Rochdale. We won't talk about that any longer, but you guys know, got a little soft spot for Newcastle. Wolves, I think, will have enough in this game. I think it's going to be Wolves 2, Newcastle 0, a Raul Jimenez double. Wow, this one is a very tasty one. Definitely the biggest fixture of the weekend. Spurs versus Liverpool. Jose Mourinho, he's come under a lot of criticism at Tottenham. They got a draw away at Middlesbrough, which is nothing to shout about. They'll probably win the replay something like 1-0 thanks to a 90th minute Lucas Moura free kick or something like that. I don't know what it will be. You know, the start from Mourinho was like when you start a car and then you get 3 minutes down the road and it breaks down again, but you got it for free. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like that at the moment for Spurs. Spurs. Liverpool, I'm running out of good things to say about them, which is hard to do because they are so flipping good. I'm sorry, like, I'm a Chelsea fan, don't like either of these two clubs necessarily, but you've got to take, again, your hat off to Liverpool this season. They've been absolutely sensational. Jurgen Klopp as a manager could not be a better fit for any club in the world, I think, right now than Klopp at Liverpool. It's a recipe made in heaven if you're a Liverpool fan. I think they're going to be too good for Tottenham. I don't think I've seen enough from Spurs. Harry Kane's got a hamstring injury, which you could argue that Spurs have often looked a lot better when Harry Kane isn't in the team, but I just don't think they're going to have enough here. I think there's going to be goals in this game. Spurs 1, Liverpool 3. We finish off with two fixtures on the Sunday. Bournemouth versus Watford. How this one has managed to make it live on a Sunday afternoon, I do not know. I'm going to be in Paris on Sunday afternoon for PSG versus Monaco. I'll be making a very special match vlog from that one. Stay tuned for it on Monday. Bournemouth versus Watford. Even though, on paper, it's a bit like a, well, how have you made it there kind of game, this game's going to have goals in it, in my opinion. Watford recently, they've really come good. I thought they were absolutely doomed until Troy Deeney comes back into the side. And Troy Deeney's that kind of player where, you know, he's not the greatest striker in the Premier League, but you can just feel the influence that he has on everyone else around him within that Watford team is absolutely massive. And I think that Watford could go to a Bournemouth side who are really struggling right now. Eddie Howe's got to pick things up fast. I think this game will have goals, and I think Watford will go there and surprise people again. Bournemouth 2, Watford 3. Moving into the final game of the weekend, Aston Villa versus Manchester City. Man City were brilliant at Old Trafford. They could have had 6 in the first half. They could have put United to the sword. They technically did put United to the sword. They won 3-1. They're starting to look good again now. Pep Guardiola, I don't like this attitude of, oh, there's nothing to play for. This season's a massive failure. Just accept that you're up against a very, very good team and there's still a hell of a lot for you to play for. Real Madrid in the Champions League. Just make sure you guarantee yourself second place, otherwise, yeah, you would be a massive failure, Pep. But I think they're going to go to Villa, get a result. Aston Villa, they're doing business in the transfer market. They've had injuries to Tom Heaton, injuries to Wesley that are going to keep them both out probably for the rest of the season. They've bought in Danny Drinkwater. However, I don't think that's going to be quite enough to get a result against Pep City. Aston Villa 1, Jack Grealish will bag another one. Man City 3. So 2 away wins on the Sunday. Let me know what you guys think and put your predictions in the comments down below. And also respond to the tweet. We've not done it for a few weeks, but I have put out a tweet, link to it in the description, where you guys can get involved and send in your predictions on Twitter. And I will go through them next week in the Premier League games. Let me know your thoughts on what I've said within this video. Massive thank you again to the Betfair Exchange for sponsoring this video. Thank you guys for watching. Hit the like button if you did enjoy it and subscribe to the George Benson Football channel for brand new videos every single day if you haven't already. Catch you all later. Bye-bye.